Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 moves to end the coaching carousel. It's going to end it right here. I'm going to solve it for you. I don't care if this is what you want or don't. I'm right on one of these before it happened this morning when I sent this to Hayden at 8:51 a.m. So
wait, when did Hayden actually read it?
I don't know. I'm just telling you. I've got it right here.
All right.
I've got the receipts. 8:51 a.m. Number 2, I nailed. So the rest, I don't care if you like him or not.
Paul,
I'm
1 for 5
this.
in baseball gets you benched.
Yeah, look. I'm just telling you, this is what works. Okay, number 5, Mark Stoops to Oklahoma. I like what he's done at Kentucky. Bob can keep, can I guide him there? I am a big fan of Mark Stoops. I think Kentucky is about where they're probably going to be with him, and Oklahoma going to the SEC, a lot more resources, and he can step in there and maybe help stop some of the bleeding.
Yeah, maybe. It makes sense. I've seen his name linked amongst 1,500 others at this point. Everybody from Matt Rule to Dave Aranda to Mark Stoops to Brent Venables to name a guy. Basically, they've been mentioned for the job at this point. But yeah, the Stoops factor obviously makes a lot of sense. Would have a good working knowledge of the program and support as well. He's in a good situation with Kentucky right now, but yeah, it's going to be hard to imagine them breaking through anytime soon, especially with Texas and Oklahoma also now coming in soon. So, that's definitely a name I would keep an eye on as far as OU goes.
Yeah, all right. Now, look, if Mark Stoops leaves Kentucky, you got to fill that job. Mike ELKO can have the Kentucky job.
What defense were they playing when LSU threw that touchdown pass?
Yeah, that's a big question. I think Jimbo didn't have to deny Scott Woodward anymore. I don't think Scott Woodward can have a press conference this week and say, hey, this guy that we just beat that we had no business beating, he's the new coach.
Yeah, I saw a lot of complaining about the officiating in that game.
Oh, it wasn't great, but, is it ever?
No, it's not. It's never great. That's why it's almost pointless to complain about because you could do that every single Saturday. But ELKO seems like a guy who is getting brought up for a lot of jobs, but there doesn't actually seem to be any traction. You have to think that eventually he is going to make a jump at some point. Obviously the Neil Brown thing would be of interest to Kentucky as well. But okay, if you're filling the jobs up and ELKO goes to Kentucky, okay.
Yeah. All right. Now, these other jobs are still, one of them isn't. Number 3, JAMEY Chadwell of Virginia Tech. I don't know how many top 5s I have to do, Virginia Tech, before you listen to me and say, yes, JAMEY Chadwell should be your guy.
Maybe they don't subscribe.
I don't know.
Well, maybe they just don't believe it because, obviously nobody else does either. Yeah. He's still at Coastal Carolina, right? He's not being mentioned anywhere else. He was a hot name just because of what Coastal was doing during the season, but at this point he's just kind of a name that's attached to be attached, and you would think the Virginia Tech job's right there, that would make sense. But honestly, I've lost track of Virginia Tech in this whole thing. Like they've fallen to the 8th most interesting job in the entire I forgot they were even still open.
Yeah,
seriously. Behind OU and LSU and USC and et cetera, et cetera. So, no idea what's going on there right now. Probably need to read more about that tonight. But, okay, JAMEY Chat. It's cooled off on him a lot, though. I don't know if it's just not being proven enough at this point or what it is, but it does seem like it's cooled off on the JAMEY Chadwell love.
Yeah, I just think he's a great fit there. I think he really is. I think he fits the culture. I think,
No, that's surprising that hasn't happened yet. But maybe they want somebody else in that area. Somebody on the board on the chat said something about the coach at Marshall. There's maybe an option.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2, KALEN DEBOER to Washington.
You nailed that one.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it. So, I think he's going to do a great job there. He's done a great job at Fresno State. He's got California recruiting ties. He's won at the levels he's been at. And so as he grows up, I think this is great. I think this is what more schools should do and not recycle. But the number 1 I'm going to give you is a total recycle. But I think it's probably going to be what they're going to have to do given where they are. But I think this is a great hire for Washington. I think he's going to do well there. And look, outside of Lincoln Riley and Mario Cristobal, what coaches, make you quiver in your boots in the Pac-12? So, and Washington's had success before. beautiful campus in a beautiful area, and maybe some kids do want to leave California or come west from other spots and go to UW.
Yeah, Utah's a job that you look at and you go, yeah, they're pretty good over there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, there's only 3, really. But, yeah, I like that this wasn't some splashy, sexy, big-name hire. And a lot of people probably, maybe not Washington fans, but a lot of people outside of the West Coast are probably like, who? But, yeah, he's a good coach. And Fresno State's been a good program. He can't possibly be any worse than Jimmy Lake. There's no way possible for that to happen that I could see. So, yeah, glad to see Washington not get all caught up in the rumor mills and the this and that and like who's gonna. I mean, they just went out, identified a guy, said he's what we need, and they went and got it done and didn't fool with all this other unnecessary stuff. So I commend the Huskies for that, and I think he's a good hire.
And number 1, I think this is what's going to have to happen, because right now I don't believe Brian Kelly to LSU. I don't think that's a fit. I think Brian Kelly's agent might be throwing it out there to get whatever he can out of Notre Dame. I know that LSU is a bigger program, but Notre Dame is Notre Dame. They don't have a conference championship game. They just have to make the committee feel warm and fuzzy to get into the playoff if they have the right record. But I say Bill O'Brien to LSU. He's the Alabama offensive coordinator. He wants to be a head coach again. He's been in the NFL. He's been at Penn State. This job is not too big for Bill O'Brien. Now, what he did in Houston will not inspire you, but I do think that, a year in the Saban rehab program gets Bill O'Brien to LSU, and I don't know what their options are after that because, as we've said, Dave Aranda not going there. Don't think Brian Kelly's going there. And I also think that Dave Aranda is a big enough name for Scott Woodward to this point. Bill O'Brien technically is a bigger name.
Well, sometimes Scott Woodward is just not going to get what he wants.
Yeah.
And money doesn't buy everything, although he seems to think that it does. But Dave Aranda, I don't worry about it right now, but that's not dying. If anything, it's only heating up even more with more coaches falling to the wayside for LSU. So that's not going to stop until they hire somebody. The whole Dave Aranda at LSU thing. As a matter of fact, I'm seeing more of it right now than ever before on Twitter because of the fact that they're also now missing out on yet another guy, and so they're getting down to their few options that are remaining. But yeah, Bill O'Brien, a guy that's certainly been discussed as part of this carousel. I don't know that he gets anybody too drummed up or super excited, but he does have some pedigree, as you said. So you could do worse than Bill O'Brien. I feel like in this hire, but you could probably still do better as well. So we'll see, man. LSU is in a very interesting position right now.
I mentioned last week on Tuesday that Baylor was going to handle Dave Aranda, and that it depended on this past weekend. Had they won and Oklahoma State had won, then I think you would hear something this week, but that now will be pushed back because they have another game to play. And I said it would be by the end of the regular season. For them, that now includes Arlington at AT&T Stadium. And I, again, discussed that with sources again today at Baylor.
And that's all well and good, but if they don't, and that they being LSU, don't announce something in the next 2 weeks, and Aranda still hasn't signed a contract, and their season's wrapping up, well, I mean, that's the thing. Is LSU going to hire somebody before then? Because if not, then we can hear all we want to, but that's only going to heat up like volcano level heat in the next couple of weeks.
I think the best thing for Baylor would be if and Dave Aranda's not going to talk to anybody until his regular season's over, so LSU probably has to get something done here this week anyway, so that might just take him off the board completely then, because they really need to get something done because they've been open longer than anybody but USC.
Yeah.
They should have had a better plan.
No,
they clearly had no plan. Their plan was, we're just going to, I guess they just felt like they could money whip somebody like Jimbo or whoever else to go take that job, and that's not the case as of right now. And maybe I wouldn't be surprised if they pull a USC and pull something out of their hat or whatever when all is said and done. I don't doubt that they could do that. But as it stands right now on this Monday, yeah, it's very curious. What move is LSU going to make? Because now we're moving on to Brian Kelly and Notre Dame rumors.
I remember in 2003, not quite at the time they still were. They were a part of the elite of college football. Nebraska had a Frank Solich. They wanted to get rid of him. They moved him on. Steve Peterson thought he had X, Y, Z, O, I, T, U, whatever. They ended up with Bill Callahan, and they have never been the same ever since. LSU will survive whoever they hire, but it was a cluster, and you wonder sometimes if you just made the wrong decision and thought you could get whoever you wanted.